Okay, so here we are. We're back again. Robert Phoenix, 15 minutes of flame, and it is 6/9, uh, 20, and we've just gone through the prelude of the show, a little trip down memory lane in my past, and now we're getting to the meat of the show, which is the new piece of video evidence that has been unearthed, and there is more to come. By the way, there has to be more to come. These guys have body cams, right? Unless the body cams were shut off or shut down, which is possible, we'll see some of it. So let's get right to it. This is the new footage that has emerged. Now, here's where it will be an interesting um, kind of call. George Floyd, we know, had fentanyl and methamphetamine. Some people said he had cocaine in his system. We know that he probably had a pre-existing condition for his heart. And this is again part of whatever potential autopsy they did on the so-called George Floyd, and um, and then the first autopsy said that he passed away due to a coronary issue. Okay, a coronary issue. It's interesting, the coronary coroner or connect. Anyway, so now after they had that initial autopsy, Michael Baden, I can't even believe that this guy is still around. You know, I told you the story about B.B. King, the blues guitar player. And B.B. King, like there were like three B.B. Kings. And back in the day when there was no television, it was all like kind of radio, phonograph, some television, but not a lot. There wasn't a lot of information being floated around. Uh, People like in the South would go from town to town, and if you could play blues guitar, you would say that you were somebody who was pretty well known, and you show up in town and people wouldn't know the difference really. If you could play, it didn't really matter. So you would basically jump on somebody else's identity. This was not uncommon, by the way. It wasn't uncommon. So BB King was one of these people, and there was an original BB King, and then there was another guy that came in and pretended to be BB King and float around. And then there was the guy, and he recorded for a while. And then there was the guy who BB King. There was a BB King that got in a car accident, likely died, and then this other BB King shows up. And because the record companies, of course, are very invested in their artists and making money. So would it be all that impossible for them to insert another BB King? No, I don't think so at all. And then that's the BB King. That final BB King is who we see all the way to the end. And keep in mind that BB King had what, like 31 kids or something like that, or I mean, he had a lot. It wasn't Screaming Jay Hawkins a lot, but a lot. Anyway, all right. So let's get into this now. Let's get into this. Here we go. Oh, come on. We're being throttled here. Let me do refresh on this page. Give me 1 second. I got into this with an email from a viewer last night. We're talking about the multiples of Floyd. I'm going to talk about that in a second as well. Let's try this. Well, ain't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? It's just not playing. I don't know why. But apparently 92 people have seen it already, and I got 3 thumbs up. Let me try another tack here. Give me 1 second. I might be able to just flash this live from another source. So give me a uno momentito. Let's see. Okay, so we got a riot taking place, Countryside Mall near Clearwater, Florida. Be on the alert for that. That just came over the screen here. Let me see here. Just trying to find. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can play it this way, because I'm not sure how long this thing's going to be around. All right. Looks like it is still up on YouTube. Let me see if I can. Here we go. But I've got it over on BitChute. Hang in there with me, folks. You know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. I have it on my desktop. I don't need this third party shit. Give me 1 second. Oh, go away. All right, here we go. All right. Hold on. Give me 1 moment. I want to start from the beginning. Oh. Okay, here we go. Ready to rock and roll in this. Here we go. All right, so here's the video. Okay, we got a cop in a mask. This is these are 2 of the guys that are supposedly charged here. Now here we go. This is the Floyd character. All right, and the time is 8:15:25. 8:15:25. Here we go. Get the drops. Now this is somebody. He won't get into the police car. He won't get in. He's saying something to them. He won't get in, and they're talking to the crowd. They're I think that's Tanthu, the brother of supposed brother of Derek Chauvin, Kim Chauvin's wife. Okay, so they're trying to. He's got no shoes on at this point. Okay, there's no shoes. I don't know what happened to his shoes. They're trying to get him in the car. And I don't know where this footage is coming from, by the way. And at this point, it is a routine it's kind of a routine. People are walking by, looking very routine here, like that. Like it's not like they haven't seen this before. It's a city. Shit like this happens in the city all the time, and they're really trying to get him in, and he's not getting in. He does not want to get in. He is clearly resisting being put into the squad car. Now, people will say, "Well, does that mean he should have been killed?" Okay, that's not part of the argument at this point. Okay, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get somebody off the street who could be a danger to himself and to another person. Keep in mind, this could also be theater that we're watching, but it's the first. Now, see, now there's definitely a high degree of resistance here. There's a lot of talking, a lot of communicating going on. And he's kind of trying to finally, he's sort of getting, now these guys are actually exercising what I would say is a great deal of restraint at this point, okay? They're exercising a great deal of restraint. The guy's sweating, he's actually working. But up now he's saying, okay, I'm not going in, I'm not going in. The head pops out again. And here comes Chauvin. All right, here comes Chauvin. He's putting the gloves on. Now here's this guy over on the side, kind of, haranguing the cops about what they're trying to do. Now, what he should really just be saying is, George, you may want to just get in that car. But clearly, he's resisting the efforts to get him off the streets, and that's it. That's what we have now. Okay, so there's going to be more. There's going to be more. Now, the next part, the next piece, or the next piece of footage is the one that's critical, obviously. And that piece is when somehow he manages to break free from that moment where he's obviously resisting being put in the car. Now, of course, if you're on the left, you make the argument that he shouldn't even be in the car in the first place, that they should just let him go. Right? They just let him go. He wasn't hurting anybody. Well, that, famous last words. What if he hurt himself? What if he hurt himself? And again, I'm using this as part of a particular narrative. And I'm not saying this is the whole story. I'm not saying that I'm giving you the truth. I'm giving you another piece in the Gemini puzzle here. So we have the footage of him where he just kind of drops to the ground like Gumby. And clearly, in that video, there's no resisting arrest. And then we have the extended, fuck you world. I'm Derek Chauvin, white racist, killing a black man, staring into the camera video. He may as well just put up a middle finger during that time, right? That's the incendiary imagery that we get. And that's the imagery that winds up turning everything into this cyclotron of revolution, radicalism, and change. Now, remember, this is also an occult operation. This is an occult and esoteric operation. We got into the whole Prince thing. We got into the Twin Cities, this whole idea of the twin, which has been going on all throughout. The purple, the purple one, right? The revolution, the purple revolution. This is all occultic symbolism and power that they're drawing from in order to push the event. So the next piece of footage, if there is one, and there theoretically should be, I'm not sure where that video footage is coming from, by the way. I'm not sure if it's coming from a camera nearby. I'm not sure if it's coming from another officer. Like, was that Chauvin's camera that was recording that? Because, but it shouldn't be, because he walks into the image. right? So the next piece of footage that's going to drop is the footage between that event and then Neon Neck moment. That will be that's going to be like the Zapruder film footage. And if it ever surfaces, it will show a very, very different picture, I believe, of the event. And then the people that are using the event in order to push an agenda at light speed will have to deal with it. They'll have to answer to it. They'll have to defend it. They'll have to reject it, right? And there's no way that they'll ever say, you're right. He was resisting arrest. We were wrong. Let's take a few steps back here. Tucker Carlson made a really good point last night is that when the left gains power, they don't give it up, right? Once they gain ground, they fortify the ground that they've gained. And the right does not do that. The right cedes power all the time. The right theoretically is in retreat and has been for many, many years. There's no true people on the right. In order to get elected, you got to be soft right, or you got to be kind of in the middle, and you got to donate to the right causes and do all that stupid shit. The only place if you're really, really on the so-called right, when I say right, I mean I don't like to think of it as right in like Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham territory. Those people they're worthless. But I'm talking, and we should even just abolish the term right and left. Truth versus illusion, right? Truth versus fiction. If you're on the truth side, if you're on the truth side, then you're going to be in a place where people still actually really respect the truth, resonate with it. If you're on the fiction side, you will buy into the fiction. And if you buy into the fiction, you are headed essentially straight to fucking hell. I'm telling you that right now. Right? Because, the big T, the big truth does not, it does not differentiate at times. It does not differentiate. Right? So this is what we're talking about. Truth versus fiction. Truth versus illusion. If you're on the side of illusion or on the side of truth, and what I would call cosmic reality, consciousness reality, high consciousness reality. That's what it really boils down to. And once they get to that place, once the illusionists gain power, they never give it up. It is never coming back. Disabuse yourself of that fact, Jack. Right now. So even if we had the most clear-cut evidence of what happened, they will never, ever, ever let up. They'll talk about Ahmaud Arbery. They'll talk about Tamir Rice. They'll talk about whomever, Breonna Taylor. They'll talk about Eric Garner. There'll be a number of cases. What about this? What about this? What about this? There was a guy in Detroit named Tony Timpa, and he was too high on coke. He was too high on coke, and he called the cops on himself. He called 911, and he said, "I'm really fucking high. Can you help me out?" The cops came and they strangled him. Yep. Tony Timpa happened to be a so-called white male. Okay, nobody gave a shit about Tony Timpa when it came to that form of police brutality or police overreach. Nobody talks about that. I talked about the guy again in Michigan who was the security guard at Dollar General who got smoked because three people, a woman did not want to wear a mask. And he said, "You can't come in the store." She came back with, I think it was her father, her brother, her cousin, whatever, and they killed the guy. They killed the guy. Nobody rioted over that. Nobody said defund Dollar General and blaming Dollar General for the ultimate arrest for this woman. Oh, it's the garbage man. There's the garbage man. Waving to the garbage man. Trash pickup. Civilization in action. You're watching it live here. Well, you're hearing it live. So it doesn't matter, really. It doesn't matter, what you bring to the table. There will always be this or that, or this or that, or this or that, or this or that, or this or that, because they think that they've proven their point. And again, Black Lives Matter is driving the story, is driving the narrative, and they are really, in my estimation, exploiting a lot of people on both sides of the ledger sheet. They're exploiting, the so-called white people who are burdened with guilt and whatever kind of, I don't know, stupid fucking program that they've swallowed, and they're exploiting good people on the so-called Black American side of the ledger sheet as well. Because there are Black Americans that don't agree with Black Lives Matter, right? And you'll see this now. You will see this even in the Black American family. Well, you're going to see the separation there. You're going to see people in the Black American family who don't believe in it, and love other people who do believe in it, and it'll just be like what it was, for so-called white America in 2016 when Donald Trump got elected. And so atomization and fractalization, the Gemini program in full effect. And then and look, I'm going to try to be as clear as possible here, right? Again, I can't even begin to wrap my head around what it would be like to be so-called Black, right? And I would bet that if I had somebody talk to any so-called Black African American person in person, I'd probably get at least 2 or 3 stories out of them where shit had happened to them. Okay, and that's a fact, right? Without a doubt, that things would have happened to them. And unfortunately, that is part of the society that we live in, right? Better or worse, and I think it's a lot better than it ever was, to be honest with you. Well, I take that back. It was a lot better in the 70s. It was a lot better in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. This stuff just wasn't going on. But if you look at America historically and contemporarily versus other countries in the world, let me tell you, it's way better. And don't let them try to tell you anything other than that. It's not perfect, but it's way better. But I would understand, right, that if you had 2 or 3 of these things kind of happen to you in your life and kind of left a bad taste in your mouth, that you really weren't able to exercise or expunge, then an event like this comes along. It's just like throwing kerosene on a fire. I get, and that to me is, again, kind of exploitative. It's exploitative. So it doesn't really matter what we come up with, right? They've got a narrative. They're going to drive the narrative no matter what. The only thing that would stop this thing in its tracks is if George Floyd popped up somewhere. And really, this is kind of my fantasy, and it is a fantasy, that all of a sudden this whole other timeline where there's the event happened but didn't happen, and that George Floyd, whoever this person was, has such a terrible and guilty conscience that he makes a video and puts it on Instagram or whatever. It goes viral. He wants to say he's sorry. I mean, that would just be like the ultimate game changer. That would be such a game changer at that point. Is it ever going to happen? I don't think so. I don't think so. But I have thought about it, and I do have a little seed pod right over here, and that goes for any kind of so-called event, right? And again, I got to kind of wrap things up here because I'm getting ready to move into the next phase, and I do want to talk about timelines. Is that if you go back and look at what happened in Santa Barbara and the so-called incel shooting that took place in Santa Barbara, and who was it? It was what's his name? Roger, what's his name? Roger Peter or something like that. The guy who was the cinematographer for Hunger Games was his kid, Elliot Roger. There was a video that surfaced not long ago with well, no, take that back. There was a video that surfaced not long after that event where Elliot Roger popped up, and he pops into a camera, and some guy says, "Dude, aren't you supposed to be dead?" Uh huh. Yeah. Yeah. So my space that I'm holding is that at one point or at some point, one of these dupes, one of these actors makes a full on confessional, and then everything just unravels, and not one shot has to be fired, not one shot, not one life has to be lost. And if I can hold that space, so can you. All right, let me get into a little bit more of what I want to bring up today. I got a very I got a very in some ways how do I say this, very sad comment from the Sunday night show. I'm going to read this to you. This is from SRF. Maybe I'll just do a little screen share to show it to you that I'm actually not making this up. And SRF, thank you for adding your comment. Don't forget to hit the like button as well today. Let me see. We got the screen share on this. I think we do. I own a salon, and since going back, I can't stand the regulations they make us follow. We're not allowed to sell any merchandise. It had to be removed before we opened back up. But yeah, we could go to Walmart and buy things. Also, we're required to wear masks, and I can't breathe in them. And I wear glasses, so now it's hard to even see because wearing the masks makes my glasses fog. I've been trying to deal with this, but I don't understand how any of it makes sense. This is so frustrating. I can't believe our lives have changed so much without any reasonable explanation. My reply is, I'm very sorry to hear that. You're being punished. That's what's happening. I don't understand the product part. Makes no sense. And it's not supposed to. I actually do understand the product part. They don't want you to have any other income, right? They want to limit your income. They want to limit your ability to sell things. So my advice to you, SR, is to get people in your town to file a class action suit against the city, against the county. You got to pool your money. You got to get together, and you got to hire people to represent you and put the heat on back at them. Write letters to the editor of your local newspaper. Right? You have a right. You have a right to have a business. You have a right to be able to sell things. You have a right to be able to take care of yourself and feed yourself and your family. Okay. Now, here we go. This comes from the WHO, and this should be standard operating procedure for anybody trying to understand or tell other people really what the hell is going on here. From CNBC, you see where it says, do not make public. Do not make public. This is from CNBC television. Do not make public. Preliminary evidence from the earliest outbreaks indicated that the virus could spread from person to person contact, even if the carrier didn't have symptoms. But WHO officials now say that while asymptomatic spread can occur, it is not the main way it is being transmitted. From the data we have, it still seems to be rare that an asymptomatic person actually transmits onward to secondary individual. Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove, head of the WHO's Emerging Diseases and Zoonosis Unit, said at a news briefing from the United Nations Agency Geneva headquarters, it's very rare. We have a number of reports from countries who are doing very detailed contact tracing, she said. They're following asymptomatic cases, they're following contacts, and they're not finding secondary transmission. It's very rare. If asymptomatic spread proves to not be a main driver of coronavirus transmission, The policy implications could be tremendous. A report from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, published on April 1st, cited the potential for pre-symptomatic transmission as a reason for the importance of social distancing. Tucker Carlson talked about this last night. Dr. Mark Siegel had to do sort of walk all this shit back, right? So since April Fool's Day, healthy people have been wearing masks and social distancing for no logical reason, okay? It's there. It's there. I just showed you. CNBC didn't want that to be broadcast, right? So the first things first, right? We got to get rid of the fucking masks. Take the masks off. I'm sorry, I may be considered radical, right? But I'm just showing you that the WHO has said that it doesn't work. Now, supposedly, we were supposed to be following the WHO for their relationship with science and facts. So I'm not sharing anything with you that is outside. Now, again, this video is on YouTube, okay? It's on YouTube. And YouTube has said, Susan Nowicki, is that her name? Anyway, she said that they're going to look to the WHO and they're going to look to the CDC and the NIH, and these are going to be the authorities. And anything other than that, they won't tolerate. Well, hello, YouTube, you're going to look at this, you're going to watch this video, and you're going to see that I'm quoting the WHO. This is the authority that you have ceded to. This is the authority that you've agreed to. This is the gold standard for whatever video can or cannot be put on YouTube. They are the judge, jury, and trial. They're like the Nuremberg, right? They are the Nuremberg of the coronavirus. And they just said the asymptomatic scenario is false, and that wearing masks won't help, that social distancing won't help. First things first, take the fucking mask off. Take the mask off, you'll get your voice back. You'll get your voice back. People have been conditioned and socially engineered to put the mask on. So now all of a sudden, when this next psychological operation comes around, you've got a mask on. You can't say anything. Now, this time, it is a metaphorical mask, not the actual one that you've been wearing all the time. Take the mask off. All right, I got a few minutes left. I want to talk about timelines. This is really important. Really, really important. And the more I think about this, the more that I've been working with this in my own life, okay, the better your life is going to get. And the sooner you understand this, the better, the easier it will get to transition to like what I would call a timeline of grace. And one of the things that we do is that we sabotage ourselves by making wrong choices and bad choices. And many of those wrong choices and bad choices are operating from three distinct places, right? Fear, that's number one, fear, conditioning, and ego. Those are the three places. And oftentimes they will intertwine. Fear, conditioning, and ego. We're conditioned to make bad choices because of the trauma that has affected us in our lives. So we make decisions out of trauma-based conditioning. You know, I'll tell you something. I'm going to be really upfront, right? Really, really upfront right now. I'm going to have a real moment of naked, like, truth with you, because I'm not afraid to share a naked truth. So it was about 2016, I think. It was 2016. Now, it seems like such a long time ago. 2017, 3 years ago. 3 years ago. I had a moment where I had to deal with being served papers. Okay, I'm just being upfront now. Okay, I had a moment when that happened, and it scared the shit out of me. Scared the shit out of me. And the reason why it scared the shit out of me was because it triggered the stuff that I went through as a kid. right? Because I had moments growing up where I was like, I did, as much as I loved my father, okay, and I do love that guy, he had a very, very rough childhood. And a lot of that got taken out on our family. And a lot of that got taken out on me. My father had Mars and Scorpio, and for all of you who know all about astrology, okay, his Mars is in my 12th house. Need I say any more? All right. And as a Scorpio rising, I learned. I learned about being hyper attenuated. I learned about, how to read who was going to walk through that front door at any moment in time. Was it going to be the good dad or the not so good dad? And that's not to say that I was an angel. Far from it. Far from it. I was a difficult kid to raise in a lot of ways. And if I was my parents and I dropped into their family, I'd be scratching my head most of the time. What the fuck did we do with this kid? Because I was like I was really smart, and I was rebellious. I was really rebellious from a very early age. So I get it, right? I get it. I was no choir boy. But on the other hand, there was this whole other reality going on too, and it really it hit me pretty hard. It hit me really hard. It really knocked a lot of my confidence out for a very long time. So when you don't have real confidence, right? When you don't have like a real center, you start acting out of different places. You start putting on masks. You start trying things out. You start putting on different ideologies in order to find something that allows you to gain some traction in your life. Because really deep down inside, you've been atomized. This is what happens. So I still had some of that conditioning. I still had some of that going on. And in 2016, that moment hit me, and I was like, that 9 or 10-year-old kid, who was terrified, right? When that moment happened, and I got triggered, super triggered, and a lot of the decisions I made after that were really not great decisions. And I'm just being upfront. And nobody got hurt. There was nothing happened in that regard. But they were not good decisions for me. And it definitely changed a part of my timeline. Looking back on it, it's probably needed to occur on some level, right? It needed to occur on some level. And it's taken me a while to begin to, from that moment forward, which is why I stopped drinking alcohol, because I needed all my senses in order to untangle that piece, right? See, that is part of how we subvert ourselves. We subvert ourselves because we have been conditioned by trauma to make the same choices and the bad choices repeatedly. And that's the trauma fear-based programming that has us make bad choices. The ego is a different story. The ego says, I'm going to make this choice because it will make me more powerful. It will make me more popular. It will make me more wealthy. I will get things that I theoretically think I need. And that's the important piece, the theoretically think I need. It seduces us. It gives us the ability to say, oh, well, I can justify this. I can justify this. And when you get into the realm of justification, like, you're kind of fucked. Small amounts of justification, small amounts. When you really have to sort things out, are okay. I'm just telling you, okay? I'm telling you, this is a Gemini time. It's a Gemini time. And if you have to say something to protect yourself or protect somebody that you love, and it may not necessarily be 9/11 style truth, right? You can justify that. I'm sorry, you can. Because there's bigger things at play. There's much larger things at stake. But we have three things that make us have bad choices. Fear based on trauma. We have the trauma itself, the trigger, and the fear based on that. And then ego is really, so part of it's conditioning, part of it's fear. Some of the fear is connected to the conditioning. Some of the fear is not connected to the conditioning. There are genuine fears that exist outside of the conditioning. And then there is the ego piece that justifies certain choices, which is bad. You begin to look at those things. You begin to make choices from a different place. And you have to be really clear now, really clear about the choices you make. And when you make those choices, guess what happens? Your timeline changes. Your timeline changes. You begin to heal your past, right? Because you're not making those choices from the same position. You begin to heal your past. You begin to heal relationships with people in your past. And even though they may not come around and they may not show up as being healed, you don't have to worry about that, okay? You don't have to worry about that. And then moving forward, your path becomes different. The choices you make are different. The people that show up are different. The opportunities that come into your life are different. You begin to move with the momentum of grace, not the momentum of self-sabotage. And this is how we change the timelines in our own lives. We're in a Capricorn phase, Capricorn rules time. Get it now. Figure it out now. Change your timeline now. And if you've got anything that you need to resolve or you need to deal with, like, you address it. You address it. You flat out address it. And then you start to make decisions from a different place. And once you begin to get the hang of this, you will not self-sabotage. It's not going to happen. You may be tested. That's a whole different thing. And then when you begin to make decisions from a different place and your timeline shifts, guess what happens? More and more truth comes into your life. And then what happens? Right? You become a much clearer channel, a much clearer vessel for the experience of Logos. And when that occurs, you don't even need to fire a gun. You don't even need to fire a gun when that happens. Think about that for a second. That's a really radical departure now, isn't it? Yeah. But I also say this, don't cast any pearls before swine. That's important. Because once you move into this space, right, the momentum of the new timeline, the other part is you got to make sure that you're not dispersing your energy into areas and with people that don't deserve it. You got to hold on to it, bring it close. Okay, let me just check in with you guys in Chatlandia. And I'm going to go jump off and do a different thing here. Let's see where you are. I think you're here. Okay, there we go. Change yourself, change your world. More just remember, you can't take your baggage with you if you want to walk out of this realm altogether. Excellent POV. Right on, Robert, with the opportunity to start with a clean slate. I work at making my choices that are free of fear and ego. Courage to face it and strength to get through. Yep. Yeah. It's important, right? I mean, it's really, really important. And we've all fucked up. We've all fucked up and we've all made bad choices. We've all made bad choices. Whoever Pedro Fossil is, thank you for deleting his messages. I'm sure they're not welcome here. My dad used to throw me head first into the dresser drawers. That shit'll happen. That'll do it. That'll do it. Thank you, Ani. And thank you, Steve, for being on top of it. Appreciate that. I had the same kind of dad, Robert. He was known as the general. Look, I love my dad, man. He was great. He was great. He helped me out in so many different ways. And he was also very, very deeply, deeply troubled and deeply traumatized, deeply traumatized. And we get to work that out, right? We get to be sort of the end of the line. We are the cul-de-sac. It's we are in astrology. There's a thing called the vertex, which is the second ascendant, and we are the vertex of our own generational healing. I don't have time to explain that right now. Let's see, what do we have here? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. All right. All right. God bless everybody. I'll be out of here. I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow. Let me do a little thing here. A little bye for now action. There we go. Looks like we got some trolleys in here, huh? How about that? How about that? Okay. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step on what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix, and I'll see you later. Take good care. Ciao.